Hi guys, this is gsm.com and I'm here with a review of the long-awaited Realme GT Neo 3 in the 150 watt charging version. So we're dealing here with a phone which costs around $400 to $450. It's a high mid-range device which can easily compete with some flagships. That's on account of its MediaTek Dimensity 8100 CPU, a 5nm wonder which is very well cooled, accompanied by a pretty solid AMOLED screen and at the same time a main camera which I have seen on several flagships already. So let's get going because the Realme GT series has been a solid performer throughout our reviews so far. First things first, the design. What you see here is the blue version of the handset with racing stripes, which reminds me of the Realme GT 5G. We also have a black, white and Naruto version of the phone. It has a 8.2mm thickness and weighs 188 grams. Now the back side is supposed to be made of glass. Even though it looks like metal, it has a matte finish, but this camera module is glossy for sure. The phone is quite easy to handle. It has curved sides for the back side and the buttons are well placed. We have the power button on the right side and the volume buttons on the left side, which is an atypical choice nowadays on account of many phones having all the buttons on the right side. It's slightly slippery, saved a bit by the fact that the frame goes flat here and we also have a bundled case in the box. There's a screen protection pre-applied from the factory, which you can see if you look closely, particularly in the selfie camera area. I would say the bezels are a bit thick compared to the expectations people have nowadays, but they're pretty decent overall compared to other mid-range phones. The build is quite solid, so that's everything I have to say about the device. I love the blue version. It's a special kind of blue hue, but the Naruto edition is also rather interesting. I should probably also mention that we're dealing with a long phone, not very easy to wield with a single hand. As far as the screen is concerned, this one here is a 6.7-inch AMOLED. The resolution is Full HD+, better said 2412 over 1080 pixels. It's got Gorilla Glass 5 protection, 120Hz refresh rate, and at the same time it has HDR10+ and 1 billion colors to show. Now, we have a clip open here which we're going to use to test the quality of the panel. Okay, so a couple of mentions about this panel. Vivid colors are for sure available here, even though I felt at times that is not as impressive color-wise as some other OLED panels on the market, veering closer to LCD in some ways. I mean, the wide angles are quite generous, as you can see for yourself, even though the screen gets a bit gray in the middle if you look closely. The contrast is solid in the full sunlight. We're having a pretty warm October, so there's that. Solid contrast, solid brightness, nifty colors, but not on par with the OLED of the flagships, and the view angles are okay, not record-breaking. We have a pentile matrix pixel arrangement, and when it comes to the brightness, we did a lux meter test. We achieved 622 lux units. This goes above the Xiaomi 12 Lite, the Honor 70 and the Xiaomi 11T. It's below the Huawei Nova 10 Pro and the Motorola Edge 30. Now, we are treated to a bunch of useful settings here as far as the screen is concerned, and you can get them here. Display and brightness, you get your brightness, auto brightness, and the screen color mode, which can be set to vivid, natural, or you can also have a pro mode, which is this one here, triggering cinematic and brilliant as its sub settings. We also have screen color temperature, which can be cooler or warmer, eye comfort, bright HDR video mode, auto rotation, and refresh rate set to auto, high or standard. Now, as we go inside the phone, you're going to find a CPU here, which I haven't seen that many times. It's part of the 8000 series, or better said, MediaTek Dimensity 8100. 5nm chip, octa-core, 2.85 GHz, and something like this has been seen or derived versions of it have been seen on the OnePlus Nord 2T and the Oppo Reno 8 Pro. It has a Mali G610MC6 GPU, and the version I'm using here offers you quite a bit of RAM. 12 gigs LPDDR5 and 256 GB of storage. UFS 3 at least, I'm guessing, if not 3.1. No microSD and no lag, honestly. One of the least laggy phones I've played with recently, and runs all games like a champ. Totally does, and it's honestly lag free and heating free, That's something which I noticed here. On account of the fact it has a crazy amount of features to cool the phone. So check it out. We have a 39,000 millimeter square cooling area. We got vapor chamber, graphite sheet, we have graphene, we have thermal gel made of diamonds, we have silica gel, we have copper alloy and a copper foil. So a lot of cooling, some people would say gimmicks, but in the end they may be helpful. Now, as far as the benchmarks are concerned, we've got you covered. We go here. We start off with Antutu 9, where we're just above a few other phones which are pretty impressive. Check it out. So OnePlus 10T and Honor Magic 4 Pro have some of the best Snapdragon CPUs on the market, and we're beating them for some reason, which is pretty impressive. Still, we're below the Oppo Find X5 Pro and the OnePlus 10 Pro, which are flagships. Anytime we are getting closer to flagships, this means that this phone is actually pretty competitive. Now, when it comes to Geekbench 5 in the multi-core subtest, check it out. We're beating Galaxy Z Flip 4 and Z Fold 4, fall flagships from Samsung, the ROG Phone 5 Pro. This is definitely a phone to remember among the high mid-rangers of the current year. We are also surpassing Galaxy S22 Ultra and the Vivo X80 Pro, while staying below the Huawei Mate 50 Pro and the Xiaomi 12T Pro. Let's check out the GPU if it's any good, and turns out it's actually solid, beating the Galaxy S22 Ultra, Xperia 1 Mark III and the Moto G100. Also the Pixel 7 Pro, just so you know, we're testing it these days. Still, with this result, it's placed below the Vivo X60 Pro and the Realme GT Neo 2, so not that high of a GPU, I mean, not a record breaker, but still pretty impressive. When it comes to the benchmarks, we're done. When it comes to the temperature test, here we are, 37.9 degrees Celsius in benchmarks, quite cool. When it comes to games, 35.7, once again impressive and very well cooled. As far as the battery is concerned, we have here a 4500 mAh unit with 150 watt charging. The promise on paper is to deliver a 50% charge in merely 5 minutes. Let's see if it's actually delivered. So we start off with a video playback test where we achieved 18 hours and 48 minutes. This is above the Asus Zenfone 9, Samsung Galaxy A53 and the Xiaomi 12 Lite. It's still below phones like the Vivo V23, the selfie phone, Honor 70 and also the OnePlus Nord 2T. Continuing the tests, we have here the continuous usage 1, and in PC Mark we were able to achieve a result of 13 hours and 19 minutes. It's quite solid but not a record breaker, just shy 3 minutes above Galaxy A53. We're also surpassing the OnePlus 10T and the Honor 70. We're below the OnePlus Nord 2T and also below the Motorola Edge 30 Neo. The charging is the thing everybody's waiting for. 19 minutes, just 1 minute shy of the record achieved by the OnePlus 10T, and after 5 minutes you're at 40%, which is still mighty impressive. The settings for the battery also include a GT mode, power save and super power save, and also an optimized usage. Now, as far as the stereo speakers are concerned, we have here one at the bottom, and you may be guessing that these are the top speaker holes. No, it's actually the earpiece all the way. We don't have an audio jack, but we do have Dolby Atmos and a bunch of settings which some people may find to be pretty useful. So if you go here, and if you go here, you can see environment profiles, 4 of them, indoor, on the go, commute, flight, and scenario profiles, smart, movie, gaming, and music. Okay, and I think it's time to listen to some tunes now. Okay, so you get the idea. The bottom speaker is obviously more powerful, and if you cover it, you're losing most of the experience. A couple of things here. So I should mention that there's lots of vibration for the device's body. The bass was surprisingly good. Also, high notes and voices were fine. Finally, an all-rounder, except for the fact that the speakers don't equal each other in strength. I'm happy with the whole experience. Now, when it comes to the decibel meter tests, we have them here. So power of the volume, 72.8 decibels at the bottom, at the top with the acoustic sample test, 79.8 decibels at the bottom this time. Okay, so this means that we're surpassing the Xiaomi 12 Lite, Moto G82 from Motorola, and the Galaxy A53. We're below the Huawei Nova 10 Pro and Motorola Edge 30. With the 99.4 decibels achieved in gaming, we are above the Xiaomi 12 Lite and the Poco F4, but below the OnePlus Nord 2T and the Vivo V23. I think we're done with the acoustics. Let's talk about the cameras and use a white background to show you the cutout, the punch hole for the selfie 16 megapixel shooter, f2.5 aperture, HDR and just full HD videos. At the backside there's a bit of a star of the show here, this 50 megapixel main camera, which by the way has a Sony IMX766 sensor seen on quite a few flagships this year. Optical image stabilization, phase detection autofocus, f1.9 aperture, dual LED dual tone flash, and these two little fellows, 8 megapixel ultra wide, 2 megapixel macro. Films in 4K 60 frames per second, that's a big plus. And we have a few options here which you may find to be familiar. Okay, so we got this little cat here, and those options I referred to earlier are the following. If you go to portrait and go here, you'll be treated to the famous bokeh flare, which Oppo made famous last year. It's available for both photo and video. This is the more section with ultra macro, time-lapse, tilt shift, panorama, slow-mo, text scanner, pro, movie and dual video. You can take full 50 megapixel shots. This is the photo section. It has an AI scene detection mechanism, scene enhancement even. This is the video department, confirming 4K 60 frames per second. There's also an AI highlight video available. And as I mentioned before, the option of AI color video and bokeh flare, plus a bunch of other filters. There is a street mode here, where the option to do a raw capture, aside from JPEG, and the night mode. I think we're about done with the options and settings, and it's time to check out the full gallery of shots for the handset. So here we are with a gallery of shots taken with this handset. Let me start off with those taken during the day, and here we are. So first things first, we have this beautiful nature shot, and I'm actually loving the green hues achieved here. Well, the ultra-wide ones aren't as impressive, but still for a low 8 megapixel ultra-wide camera, they're decent. This is a selfie of a colleague of mine who took these shots. I have to say the selfie camera is just okay. Not particularly impressed with the background here, which is pretty soft, but the texture of the face and the details are fine. I mean, it's not a record breaker, it's just okay, and may end up on the cons list at the end of the device's review. Here I am loving this shot. It's probably one of the best I've taken with the handset. The quantity of light, the color calibration, the way the light and the shade fall over this gazebo impressed me pretty much. Okay, so I'm guessing you're wondering about the zoom. This is a zoom of about 3x and it's fine. Afterwards, you're going to see a bit of noise. Ultra wide shot and not as much deformation on the sides as you'd expect, but pretty light on the details. Okay, so we're getting into a fair here, and a fair means a lot of colors, a lot of movement, and a lot of people. I love the reds, the way they're captured here, and also the close-ups are excellent. I would say flagship worthy, but don't go dreaming about macros, stay with the close-ups. Once again, very nice here, the range of greens. You can see multiple shades of green for these trees, and here you can see a stage with people running around and dancing and singing, so I would say it handles itself like a champ. It's no wonder it has the exact same camera setup as the OnePlus Nord 2T, and here comes the food. If you're a food blogger or vlogger, you'll definitely be very happy with the achievements of this camera. Texture, color, you can almost smell the food while you're watching these photos, so I'm pretty impressed by what you can achieve here. Keep in mind we're getting closer to the season of the Christmas fairs all over the world, so you may want this as your companion. So all in all, very happy with the color calibration, with all the lovely textures of the fall, zoom up to 3x, and my only caveat would be probably the ultra-wide camera's lack of detail and also the useless macro cam. Plus the selfie camera isn't as impressive as I've seen on other phones. Now we switch it up and we go to the nighttime shots in another part of the town. So pretty nice level of yellows here. They're not exaggerated, they're not overblown, they're not purple. Of course, the ultra-wide camera is a bit softer on the details and also on the lighting. All in all, I'm pretty happy with the experience here, minus the halos, which are a bit overblown every once in a while. And if you're unhappy at any point, for example here, if the incandescence is too much for you, there's the night mode, which solves some of the problems. So for a mid-range phone, I would say it's doing fine. And of course, the biggest landmark is, as usual, the green pharmacy, where you can actually activate the night mode and see the LEDs, which I didn't see when I tested the Sony Xperia 5 Mark IV. So that's a big plus. Extra bonus points for this excellent focus here and the texture and details of the buildings we captured during the nighttime. So overall, not bad for a mid-range handset. This has been a presentation of the photos. I think it's time to talk about the videos, and we have an app for that. I'm actually more impressed by some aspects of the video capture than the photo capture, to be honest. Okay, so if you want some food here, we have a roast pig. Excellent texture, details, what have you, but if you're a vegan, you may be horrified by this shot. So, details are here. There's a bit too much light for my liking. It was a very bright scenery, so let's try and find a more relevant one. Here's where the Kurtos Kolacs Hungarian dessert is made. Feels like an Anthony Bourdain documentary, to be honest. So, once again, if you're a vlogger, a food vlogger, you'll be very happy with the result. The only problem that this camera has is the fact that it's not able to stabilize properly without giving that, well, you know, a rocking effect, like you're rocking on a boat. But I'm definitely loving the colors, the textures, and the vibe of these culinary captures. And keep in mind, we're walking around, changing focus fast, and the camera handles it like a champ. We also capture some music, people chatting around, so the atmosphere is here, and the microphones were quite solid. We even captured the local chorus singing, and of course, corn on a cob with an excellent hue of yellow. Okay, and here is where the fresh grape juice is being made. All in all, I'm pretty happy with the achievements of the camera video-wise. I would put it somewhere around the top 10 or top 15 video captures for a mid-range phone for the current year. And also excellent stabilization when walking around. Plus, I would also like to mention the fact that the colors and the focus were spot on. My biggest surprise came during the night. Just look how nice this video is. I mean, we're walking around with zero problems regarding stabilization. I know it's a bit darker and the colors are a bit warmer than usual, but the column here and its texture and details, even the fluid zoom, had me wondering, mid-range or flagship killer? This was probably the most unexpected thing. Usually low light filming is the weakest point of a mid-range phone. Well, apparently not this one. So when everything said and done, the camera is also on par with the other top specs. You can go ahead and look at our review or unboxing of the OnePlus Nord 2T. Is the exact same camera behavior. Now that we're done with the cameras, we can talk about other aspects. When I say other aspects, I mean connectivity. Obviously, you have a dual nano SIM card setup. This phone has everything. It's got your 5G, Wi-Fi 6 connectivity. It's got Bluetooth 5.3, dual band GPS, and also USB-C 2.0. Keep in mind that the NFC applies all around the phone, 360 degrees. You're no longer forced to touch a certain part of the phone to make a contactless payment. It's all around. Okay, so the calls were very good in clarity and also quality. And when it comes to the speed test, we have the app here and you can see the results. On Wi-Fi, we achieved a top value of 781 MB/s in download, 674 MB/s in upload. Now, aside from that, we also did a 5G test with solid results, 547 MB/s in download and 81.2 MB/s in upload. I think it's time to move on to the software. As far as the software goes, first I need to talk about security. So we have here a fingerprint scanner, which I'm going to put to the test. As you can see, the unlock is pretty fast and accurate, even though every once in a while it's a bit hit and miss, especially if you keep your finger 90 degrees, that may become a problem. The leftmost home screen is dedicated to the news, which recently has started to highlight scores for soccer matches and other sports. Here you have the gestures. As you can see, I'm not using the virtual buttons at the bottom, I'm using gestures to get around and activate multitasking and all that. By the way, very nice feedback. When I'm scrolling around here, I'm feeling a slight vibration reminding me of the Apple Watch one. You can also do split screen if you want to and floating windows, but that's usually triggered by the sidebar and you have windows like this, which you can also resize, enlarge, or move around the screen. This area reveals some of the most important features of the phone. You got your flashlight, wallet, there's a multi-screen mode, dark mode, screen recording, power saving, personal hotspot, and GT mode for an extra boost of performance. The main options and settings are here, connectivity wise, personalization, and you can do a lot of customization here, in always on display as well, with patterns, messages, and even a cute real meow mascot that Realme has. These are the icons. As usual, Realme is offering the largest package of optimizations for icons I've seen on any sort of other phone. If you pinch the screen, you're treated to, once again, extra customization, wallpapers, icons, widgets, layout, transitions, and more. We're running on Android 12 and Realme UI 3.0. We're not even done yet. So if you go here, you got your home screen and lock screen, display and brightness, notification and status bar. There's the privacy area where you can find your privacy dashboard. Then the battery settings. Of course, digital well-being and parental controls are here, so you can learn which apps you've been using obsessively or not. And the special features are here: split screen, flexible windows, quick launch. There's also a smart sidebar and kit space plus a simple mode. There's also the Realme Lab, where we have those experimental features, like for example, you can measure your heart rate with the fingerprint scanner as shown here. Let's actually do a quick measurement. Okay, so 80 BPM, not bad. Around the same as the previous measurements. When everything's said and done, you also have an app drawer here with all the useful apps, coupled with a search, as you can see here for yourself. The most useful app is obviously this phone manager here, which has emergency call, emergency information, payment protection, private safe, diagnostics. These are all tools, but this is the core optimization area. Now, another thing worth mentioning is that Realme is taking care of gamers. As you can see here, we got special options for the gaming experience, and once you start playing a game, you'll have a side window to play with. Speaking of which, I can activate Apex Legends. You can swipe from here, from the side. And here we are. You see the temperature, battery level, performance settings, game focus, screen recording, touch optimization, and a few more. Performance settings are these ones here, and I have to say it's starting to feel like a bit of a gaming phone, particularly with the GT mode activated. Okay, and since I'm here in this game, I think it's high time we played something, and we also, talked about the pros and cons of the phone and the verdict. So let's get going. Okay, so pros and cons. On the pro side, it's a very pretty phone, as you can see by looking at its backside and those racing stripes. It's also got a very powerful CPU, so much so that this MediaTek high mid-range CPU is humiliating the Snapdragon, the best Snapdragons on the market. Okay, so aside from that, excellent battery life. Well, not as good as the predecessor, to be honest, but the charging may somehow make up for it just a slight bit. I should also probably mention that the screen is very bright. We have solid speakers. The phone is quite light considering all its cool specs, and also we have fast connectivity and a customizable experience and interface. A very nice main camera, I'll give it that much. And aside from the main camera, I think, well, we're pretty much done with all the special features we have found to be the pros for the handset. Now, on the con side, there aren't many things. I should probably mention the selfies, which aren't bad, but they're not exactly on the level we wanted. And I'm so bad at aiming. Okay, so cons. Once again, we have so-so selfies. The ultra-wide and the macro camera aren't doing any favors for this handset. At the same time, no micro SD and no IP certification, plus the fact that the phone feels a bit slippery when you're first using it. Then it's pricier than the GT Neo 2 before it, and the battery life isn't as impressive as that model. Now, the 150 watt thing in the long run may increase the usage of the device, I mean the battery usage, and may cause some problems in the long run. At least that's the perception, the general perception. Those were the cons, and I have to say none of them is a deal breaker if we're being totally honest. This handset is still a mid-range device, a high mid-range device, and its CPU, while mid-range itself, is able to kick the behind of Snapdragon CPUs. It's a gaming phone for sure. It's a stranger to overheating. It has an excellent cooling mechanism and a solid main camera, the same one from the OnePlus Nord 2T. I can highly recommend it, but expect the price to drop a bit during Black Friday, so we're just weeks away from that. If you can hold on, you'll probably get a pretty nice offer for it. Okay guys, so this has been the review of the Realme GT Neo 3 handset, 150 watt version. It's a gaming phone for sure. It can easily be a handset for the food vloggers out there and also travel vloggers, thanks to the fast charging and the abilities of the main camera, which is on par with what the OnePlus Nord 2T is offering right now. That's it from gsno.com. Hope you enjoyed this review. Goodbye.